What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Group Chat Sports. This is Group Chat Football. I am Peter Ariz alongside D Money. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This is our daily college football show, talking the biggest news in the sport, from transfer news, recruiting news, coaching movement, position battles now in spring football coming up here. And we've been going program by program here, looking at our top 5 newcomers that we're excited about. And remember, we're talking about transfers and we're talking about freshmen coming in from the high school level. A lot of these guys have already enrolled on campus. There's some early buzz about them. And today we are talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide. Season 2 for Kalen DeBoer, looking to build on last year. Not necessarily up to normal standards, but of course they were still in the mix for the playoffs up to the very end there. But got to build on that. And I think Alabama fans should be very excited about this group coming in.
Yeah, Alabama finishing outside the top 10, that's not a familiar sight for Alabama fans. But when you look at the recruiting rankings, looks kind of like you're used to seeing. Maybe not the same performance in state that you're used to with Auburn being so strong there. Teams like Oregon coming in and doing work. But overall, nationally, big time additions. Also got some good players through the portal who are going to help right away. This was an extremely strong offseason for the Crimson Tide and should have them poised to make another crack at the college football playoff and the national title, which is what they compete for.
So we'll start at the quarterback position, none other than Keelon Russell, freshman quarterback out of Texas. I mean, highly talented. And then everything you hear about him off the field is that he's coming in with a real worker's mindset and someone who, look, it's no guarantees. Obviously, he's starting. He's coming in as a true freshman. But I think with that talent level, should be in the mix to compete here.
Yeah, and I think you hear the comparisons to Daniels from LSU now with the Washington Commanders. I think those comparisons are all valid. Ranked similarly as a top 3 quarterback in the nation. In Russell's case, number 2 quarterback, number 2 overall player. 6'3", 175 from Duncanville, Texas, an outstanding program down there. National Gatorade Player of the Year, 13-1 as a senior, went to the semifinals of the state playoffs. Statistically, 66%. Over 4,000 yards passing, had some really great talent around him, including DeCorian Moore, who was going to be a standout freshman for Oregon. 55 touchdowns, 4 picks, 321 rush yards, 3 rushing TDs. Again, Jaden Daniels would be my comp for him. I've seen others make the same comp as well. Just someone who processes very fast. He's got that kind of fluid, Gumby-like delivery where he can adjust his arm angle and still deliver the ball with velocity and accuracy. Super poised. You watch, look, he had a major talent advantage in high school. He produced with that talent advantage. And then you see him at the Under Armour All-America game with guys he's never even played with. And he's driving the team down the field, completing passes, figuring out the timing. He's just one of those guys that's got a knack for kind of figuring it out. You heard Coach DeBoer say during spring that they're not going to waste reps. All 3 guys are going to have a chance to show what they can do. That includes Austin Mack. That includes Ty Simpson, who will be the front runner as far as his experience from Tennessee. Austin Mack, I believe, from California. So we'll see where all these guys go. They're from all over the map. But I think we had a Texas quarterback with Jalen Milroe. If I had to pick the quarterback to win this job, it will also be quarterback from the Lone Star State and Keelon Russell.
And these are clips from one game. So these aren't even like a full season here, by the way. So, you can go check out more of his stuff on Huddle. But we actually done a full video on the quarterback situation at Alabama. If you Crimson Tide fans are interested in that, you can find it on our page. But listen, you got to be excited about the talent coming in. And again, from a character standpoint, everything you hear about him is top notch.
Yeah, that's every box you want to check aside from maybe weight. I think you could say with Keelon Russell, that's what reminds you of Jaden Daniels. And look, this is going to be a competition. We talked about Ty Simpson earlier. This guy's a mobile quarterback, a playmaker who hasn't played a ton. It's not like Arch Manning where you have a pretty decent body of work as the backup. He hasn't played a ton, but he's been the number 2. He has played. He has that athleticism to create. We mentioned Austin Mack, the size from Folsom, California, pro-style passer, very familiar with this system. You got Ryan Grubb coming back, which is another factor to consider. Coming back from the pros, see what he does and how this offense looks different in year 2. But again, I just think Russell, processing, fluidity, twitch, more than enough arm strength, more than enough height. guys that are rated this high, quarterback recruiting be a crapshoot. But when you're in that top 2 player in the country, top 5 player in the country, those guys usually find their way to the NFL. And I think Russell will be an NFL quarterback. And I think he's going to be the guy sooner than later for the Tide.
So someone who could be protecting him on the offensive line is the next player we'll be talking about here. And that's Jackson Lloyd, who, you talk about a unique skill set from a physical standpoint. He looks exactly how you want them to look, 6'7", 290. And when I pull up his photo here in a second, it took me a while to find clips of him playing offensive line because he was playing stand-up edge rusher at his size. So I'm going to play some of those clips here in a second. You get an idea of his athleticism, but basketball player as well. Just a really unique, talented athlete. Baseball too. So, and he's good in all these sports.
Yeah, this guy, talking about my favorite players in the class, I put this guy in the top 5, right? This guy to me screams first round NFL draft pick, 6'7", 290. Wingspan 84 inches, from Central Coast, Carmel, California, there by Monterey. Number 7 OT nationally. In terms of basketball, as a junior, 15 points, 8.4 rebounds, 1.7 blocks, all league. You look at baseball as a sophomore, 32 games, 284, 2 jacks, 8 doubles, 18 RBI. And then, of course, he is an outstanding offensive lineman, but also a defensive lineman that, like you said,
look at him standing up here, man.
he's shaking guys. I mean, that was a little guy, and he could have easily plowed through him, but he beat him with quickness to the outside. If you're USC, a team that's been a program that historically has had some great Hall of Fame offensive tackles, how is a guy like this leaving the state? What a job by Alabama staff to go and get this player, and truthfully, a very disappointing loss if you're USC, because this is the type of player that you need to win national championships with. If you're Alabama, you're going to continue a run of just some outstanding offensive linemen, first round picks. Of course, Tyler Booker this year. Jackson Lloyd, to me, he is going to develop into a pure tackle. Booker inside with the ability to play tackle. I think this is a pure tackle going forward with the athleticism in the frame.
Yeah, I could watch clips of him playing defense all day, but here he is at tackle.
Yeah, I mean, finishing, driving. This is really not adequate competition for him. Looks like a beautiful place to play football. But as far as competition, this is not what you're going to see necessarily consistently in the Southeast or some of the bigger programs in California. But look, his size, his finishing, his athletic ability, that's going to translate. And early reports from Steve Wolfong on 3 said he talked to some people. I think the word on this guy was he's just, I think it was an expletive that was used to describe what he's doing. Because this guy is very, very talented. The picture doesn't show it, but you get that body in a weight room for 3 years, he'll look like Tony Baselli body wise.
So we'll talk one more high school prospect here before we get into a couple transfers for Alabama. And this is Derek Meadows. Talk about a freak from a physical standpoint. From Bishop Gorman, I think we've said before on the show, we think it's easily a top 2 to 3 program in terms of getting guys ready for the next level and being instant impact sort of players. And this is a guy 6'5" with legit track credentials who can take the top off a defense and has first round type ability down the line.
Yeah, this is someone who is highly, highly recruited by a lot of schools. Of course, it goes to Bishop Gorman, my money, the best high school program in the country as far as getting the most out of their talent. This is someone with a very unique physical profile because he's 6'6", but he's also very explosive, 21.74 in the 200 meters, ran 52 in the 400, 14.64 in the 110 hurdles, 36.73 in the 300 hurdles. That was first in the state of Nevada, also finished second in the 110-meter hurdles. So this is a guy with a tremendous track background. And at 6'6", he has the ability to go up and get the football. Just sort of a unique profile, did well in off-season, kind of the 7-on-7, the camps. He was someone who was consistently standing out. And once he gets going, he could take it all the way. He's not just somebody who's going to get minimal separation and get you a first down. This guy has the strides and the acceleration at 6'6" to really create separation and create distance. You see him here in the red zone. This is where he's particularly tough because 6'6", you throw it up, he's going to be a big target for you. So will he play right away? You've kind of got some experience there with Horton, with Bernard, of course, Ryan Williams, the young veteran, already one of the best players in the country. So that's a tough group to crack, but certainly 4, 5, 6, you could see him making a move, and there's a lot of excitement already being reported around him. Steve Wilfong again from On3, when he talked about some of the early enrollees that made some noise, this was one of the first names that was mentioned.
And by the way, these are his junior highlights. But Gorman, for as great of a program there, we've had the same thing with Miami signee SJ Alafatuli. We can't get updated highlights for a lot of these guys for some reason. So imagine what this guy is going to look. This was almost 2 years ago now at this point. Some of this stuff a year and a half, 2 years ago. So you imagine what he's going to look like after a spring in the college weight room.
Yeah, he's a high upside prospect. There's a program that's done a great job developing wide receivers. I mean, that doesn't have to be a secret. You've seen those guys and what they've done at the first round of the NFL draft and in their careers. So this new staff, obviously, but look, if you look at what Coach DeBoer did at Washington, they were probably even better at developing wide receivers, at least relative to their high school recruiting ranking. So this is a path to success for Meadows. Puts in the work, which of course everyone in Gorman, that's something they're known for as a program, particularly. I think he's going to be a really, really good player.
So let's get to a couple transfers, starting with someone that you and I are very familiar with from his time at Miami, and that is transfer wide receiver Isaiah Horton, someone who wasn't a huge recruit coming out. I mean, he was a high 3-star, low 4-star on some services out of Tennessee, out of the Nashville area there. And someone who kept getting better throughout his Miami career, was one of Miami's most productive receivers last year in that explosive offense with Cam Ward at quarterback, big body, and someone who, even though he has shown the ability to be a deep threat and to also be a possession guy, I still has more in the tank, I believe.
Yeah, we've seen his whole career. Really athletic player, also from the state of Tennessee, like Ty Simpson originally. He is somebody who has always had size as far as height, was a basketball player, very productive player at a lower level of competition on the gridiron, but he needed to put on the weight. We saw it this offseason for the Miami Hurricanes. He put on a significant amount of weight, well over 200 pounds. That's 6'4". And during the season, if it wasn't Xavier Restrepo catching the hard passes for Cam Ward, it was Isaiah Horton, 56 catches, 616 yards, 5 touchdowns. Tremendous threat on slants in the red zone, third down, uses his body well. Not someone who's necessarily going to high point over your head, but somebody who is going to use his strength and his body to shield defenders off him and catch the football. And like you mentioned, there's a little more there. We've seen him go deep. He's very deadly on post. I think if he's utilized more in that fashion at Alabama as a complement to Ryan Williams, who he knows is going to be drawing his own double teams, this is some guy who can make big plays. Not necessarily like a catch and run kind of guy, but somebody that running down the field on a post, on a go, can get behind defenders and can catch the ball.
Yeah, he can create separation down the field without a doubt. And he's someone we've seen I think it was his redshirt freshman year at Miami, hit Texas A&M for a deep ball in that game that Miami won. So has shown it. But last year for Miami he was a big first down converter. He was a big red zone guy on those quick slants. And I'm excited to see him with a guy like Ryan Williams in that offense that is going to be more of the focal point from a defensive standpoint, in terms of like being that big play guy who can flip the game on any snap. So that should bode pretty well for Horton in terms of getting a lot of one-on-one looks, which he should eat up.
Yeah, we'll find out who's throwing the ball to him, but I think any one of these quarterbacks is going to love throwing the ball to Horton because of just the veteran presence and the willingness to make tough catches.
Now, the last guy we're going to talk about here on the defensive side of the ball, another transfer, linebacker Nikhai Hill-Green. He's been around the map, has played at a bunch of different places, most recently at Colorado, but was at Michigan and Charlotte as well, and very, very productive player throughout his career. 206 career tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions. It can never hurt to get an inside linebacker who's played a lot of football.
Yeah, this is somebody, the class of 2020, right? So that was meaning Yeah, that was pre-COVID that he showed up on campus, right? So that just gives you an idea of how long ago this young man graduated from high school. And he really needed the extra years because he watches his highlights. This is a guy who's originally from Pittsburgh, played his high school ball at St. Francis in Baltimore, which is kind of like almost a national school at this point. So many talented players go there to play ball. When you watch his high school highlights, very fast, very athletic, but undersized. Now he's 6'2", 230, been to Michigan where he signed out of high school, been to Charlotte where he, kind of rebuilt his stock, Colorado, and now coming to the top of the mountain at Alabama. You bring back Deontay Lawson, bring back Justin Jefferson. There's some injury concerns that you want to kind of work through. This is somebody who you can plug, play. He's going to run. He's going to hit. He's going to play with experience and physicality and bring a veteran presence to the room. You lost Jihad Campbell, who's probably the best linebacker in the country, or at least one of them. So to replace him is not going to be one person. This is going to be one additional veteran that knows what to do and can kind of lessen that blow. You're not going to replace a first rounder, but you can at least replace some of his experience.
Listen, there's been a lot of change in Alabama the last couple of years, but one thing remains the same, and that is they're bringing a lot of talent to Tuscaloosa, and they're reloading, man. I think they're in a really good spot with Coach DeBoer to have a better year than last year. And again, it was not what Bama fans wanted, but it was year one, and I think reinforcements are definitely on the way here. Got to figure out the QB situation first, though.
No question, and it's going to be a battle we'll be watching all spring. We'll keep you posted with the absolute latest coming out of all the press conferences, all the practice reports, everything that comes out about this quarterback battle you will find on Group Chat Football Live.
All right, guys, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this sort of content. We'll have you guys covered all spring long with all of the updates from Alabama and everywhere else across the country. Thank you all for watching today.